We spoke a lot in the last 4 days about the Hacking HR initiative. So today at one of the last panels, we have Janica Ilieva. She's a proud member of the global IT team in Atos, a global leader in digital transformation. Her passion is in leading projects, helping HR teams transform and utilize the power of technology to solve problems, help them be benchmarked on the market, better, faster, more agile, and competitive. She believes in bringing back to society, and thus she founded the HR and People's Analytic chapter in Sofia, Bulgaria in July 2019, and co-founded the Hacking HR chapter in Sofia, Bulgaria in October 2019. Janica, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm really happy and excited to be part of this C-level module today.
Happy to see you today as well. I would like to ask you to introduce your panelists.
Of course, I will just mention the names and I will give them the chance to say a few words about themselves. So we have Anna Dirk, we have Petar Tornev and Diljana Domoscheva today with us.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Anna Dirk. I'm the Vice President of a global company, Serviceforce. It does not have much presence in most of the Balkan countries, but it does have a major presence in Bulgaria, approximately 300 people, but globally we are around 3,500. Why my role is so special concerning HR and collaboration with the HR department is especially because I get to influence the long-term HR strategies being a part of the delivery team. As a running person that I'm running the Sofia Delivery Center, I also get to deal with the day-to-day HR problematics, how to immediately influence ENPS. So if I sum it up, as vice president of this company, I have strategic and very tactical obligations towards the HR department, which I think it has to work with me in lockstep. So thank you again for having me, Anica.
I'm very excited. And Anna, I would like to ask you one additional question. Apart from this tremendous career path that you have, who is Anna in her private life? What are your hobbies? And what would you like to share with our audience about you as a person, as a woman?
That is such a good question. So I was born and raised in Slovenia to Croatian parents, currently living in Bulgaria. I came to Bulgaria 10 years ago just for 1 year, and 10 years later, I'm still here. I have extensive experience in TV. So since the very young age, I was a TV presenter and TV host, which kind of helped me with my communication skills, which have proven after my studies to be something very useful and a tremendous skill to make sure that you're reaching your clients' goals, you're making sure your objectives are very clear and that you're setting the right expectations. In private life, I'm doing the one that I like to do the most. I'm traveling a lot. I'm still fighting the pandemic. I'm doing a lot of PCR tests and traveling as much as I can.
And still you can enjoy the traveling passion. Thank you very much for that. Then we continue with our next lady in the panel, Diljana. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Diljana. I have been working in HR for the recent, probably a little bit more than 10 years. I've been working mainly for big corporations, but recently I discovered I really, really want to work in small startups. And I'm currently working in such, which is from startup at the stage from startup to scale up. And I'm discovering very new topics, which I really, really love. One of them, of course, the collaboration between HR and the business, which I'm really looking forward to speak about today with all of you.
We're all excited about that. Would you like to share a few words about your hobbies and how you spend your spare time? I really hope that all of you have that.
In terms of time, in this way, in terms of priority, my biggest hobbies are kids. And I would say the same level of importance for me is also sports. I really love sports. I love also doing it indoors. I also love nature. That's probably the third priority of mine. I like to draw, but I have not been doing it so much recently.
Okay, thank you very much. So that keeps you going, that keeps you energetic and enthusiastic. Okay, and last but not least, of course, Petar, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Peter, and I'm director for the Advanced Technology Center in Accenture for Bulgaria. I've been with the company for about 9 years now, And I'm very passionate about leadership, everything that is related to innovation, e-commerce, cloud, security, all those fancy things that are happening nowadays, particularly we'll be doing for a while. And as Yanis has said, like about a little bit personal stuff, the other thing that I'm really passionate about is snowboard, skydiving, everything that is related to adrenaline. So yeah, I'm not that easy satisfied with like a regular sports, but I'm also kind of going back to my normal back active running life as well, which I've been postponing for the last couple of months due to pandemics and stuff, but now it's going okay.
I would like to challenge you with one question. Did the adrenaline sport give you the help for your career growth, or the stress at work helps you to relax during those sport activities?
Sometimes I think when there is adrenaline, maybe this is the only time when my brain stops working because I'm focused on, let's say, surviving the free sky falling. So if you drop from a plane with 240 kilometers per hour, it's the only time where you shouldn't be thinking for anything else apart from opening your parachute, for example. So,
do you use that strategy at work afterwards?
you should try.
Thank you very much for sharing that one. And I would like to smoothly go to the actual topic that we have we are presenting today. We called it Battlefield or Dance Floor, and all the challenges that you experienced during your work. It was not let's say how do we chose you because of who you are and the public image that you have, and we were very intrigued, the whole team of Hacking HR, Sofia, to pick you for this session. And I would like to ask you for the first question. Can you give one example, practical one, of a battlefield and one of a of a dance on the dance floor from your career, from experience?
Are we going in alphabetical order?
Okay.
So I'll give you. Yes, so I can give you actually an example where Battlefield became a dance floor. That was a really interesting example that I've observed in my career, and it's very recent, actually, a couple of years ago. When I presumed the role of a site lead that I'm currently still in, there was a certain amount of friction between the leaders and the HR department, right? And I knew that I'm inheriting this friction. So my objective number one was to make sure that a battlefield actually becomes a dance floor. Because where I think we are failing the most these days is because when we speak, this is business and this is HR. It won't work like that, right? You have to work in lockstep. HR has to have a vast understanding of the business so they can align to our objectives and make sure, that we are all working as one team. They are not my customers. I'm not their customers. They are my partners, and we should be in it together. It's very simplistic and it's easier said than done. But actually, my challenge was to transform that friction and that relationship into something really productive. And just the fact that I'm presenting here today, it's evidence of that, because I have become very much involved in the whole aspect of this work as well.
And is it a myth for you that we are one happy family in the companies that we work for?
Well, I think it depends. So definitely, I wouldn't generalize. A lot of the times, people often confuse HR with specific functions, which I think is a common mistake, right? HR, like we spoke, it's not only recruitment, right? It's not only, a person that would process administration. It's so much more. It's somebody that cares of my culture in the company. It's somebody that cares about employee engagement, somebody that makes strategic plans around ENPS, somebody that is telling me, actually, we are not keeping with the market standards, you're falling behind. So I would say it's about partnership and being very transparent also about your business objectives, right? If you don't fully, or as much as possibly business allows, share your business objectives with the HR department, sometimes it will come to friction because some of the decisions that we'll have to make as leaders will not be understood. In organization, it's often very important for the people to have the why, right? People easier perceive the change. People very much easier align with something negative or something slightly out of the ordinary if they understand why behind it. So I think it's very important to give that why to the HR as well.
So if we can summarize what you've just mentioned, then when we feel the friction, which is sometimes can be productive, but most of the times, let's say, can lead to bigger problems. So you're trying to smooth the relationship so that you can go on together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always up for a good challenge. I don't mind to be challenged. I love to be proven wrong, right? You know,
I can see that.
nobody wants to be the smartest person in the room. Everyone wants to be surrounded by people, you know, that are subject matter experts in their field. So as long as it's a productive battleship, I mean.
Okay, Peter, would you like to share experience when you danced with your colleagues and you achieved maybe excellent results?
Yeah, of course. Actually, I would like to tap into a little bit what Anna said as well, and add a little bit of different spin as well. If you think about what is the most important goal for the business, normally is top-down strategy in terms of financials and revenue, right? But equally important are people and talent. So I think this is where very often there is a little bit of battlefield, because how we drive more revenue, how we drive more sales, and so on and so forth. But you need the talent to do that and to execute those strategies. So therefore, this is where the HR team, it becomes equally important along with the talent. Why? Because first of all, we need to find and acquire the best talent, right, on the market. We need to figure out how to retain that talent, how to retrain them, how to create new capabilities, new skills. What more kind of what is the most important thing for the people? How do we engage? Because nowadays, especially after this interesting things that are happening, people are feeling a little bit disengaged. So this is a new task for, I think, for the HR and the business together to figure out how we can avoid this, for example, extreme big disengagements are sometimes happening because of the constant home office and so on and so forth. So having said all that, I think the kind of even if before people saying that HR and business are two separate roles, I think they're kind of slowly emerging to become more strategically together. They need to work into their respective fields because these are the experts in their areas, but they need to work together. So to me, this is the most important thing. How do we identify the talent that we can retain and keep, create loyalty, create more benefits if we have to, how what more we can attract people to become more innovative, for example. And the HR, on the other hand, if this is what drives the business, the HR needs to come back and tell this is why people are feeling distressed. This is what the people they don't like. This is what they like on the other hand, and this is where we can focus. So this is how I believe that the cooperation should continue, and I think this is how it becomes more like a dancing together rather than something else.
And can we say that in your company that you work for, you have the HR having a seat on the decision-making table?
Oh, absolutely. I don't go anywhere without my HR, and it sounds like literally, like, seriously, guys. I think a key important thing is to find the best people around you, even to recruit people that are better than yourself, and so on and so forth. So everybody who can come and contribute with ideas, this is the most important thing. And I think HR is a key role in decision making, and how do we recruit people, and whether we should, even if we have to recruit them, whether do they fit the culture, the company culture and values, and so on and so forth. So these are the best, and they're the front gates when you talk about talent.
I really like to highlight there the gate to get the proper people who can drive the business together with you. And Dilyana, I wanted to ask you, the reason we invited you to the conversation is to introduce a different perspective. You work sometimes as an executive coach, and most of the cases you have to facilitate conversations between HR people and executive people. Then what are the main challenges when they discuss, and what is difficult for them to understand?
What is difficult for them to understand? I think every person is different, so I would not generalize. I think all of us, we've met the same problems. But what I've really found to work, when we speak about, let's start first from the definition of battlefield. When we speak about battlefield, it's a field where two sides battle. I mean, why are we there? If we ask us this question, why are we there, then we would not fight. We're there to serve the people, to serve the business. And both cannot go without each other. People are the business, and business is done with people. So this has been always my input when I'm trying to act as a mediator, or if I'm being among, whether it is the executives, the HR, or often marketing and HR. Very often this is the problem, that people cannot see their common goal. And if they act out of ego or out of their own personal interests, not of a common interest, then they compete, then they fight. But if they act out of purpose and out of commitment and common goal, then they collaborate. And I think this is grasped very easily by people once they realize what they're doing.
And what would you normally do with them to make them communicate easily? What kind of leverages would you use to help them? I'm sure it's not always easy.
Well, I mean, we've noticed it even now, to put the current COVID situation as well. I mean, everything can change. Physical proximity can change, business circumstances, teams. But what really makes people work and collaborate together is their emotional bond. And I think it's not really a coincidence that, and this is how, not a coincidence how HR is evolving. HR is long time now, HR is not only hire and fire and payroll. That's why the HR role encompasses so much more. You cannot just hire some quality person and rely that everything will be fine.
So you're looking at it from end-to-end perspective and the whole experience of the employee.
Absolutely.
I would like to ask Peter, what was the last thing that the HR team asked from you so that they can deliver what you asked them?
It's a couple of the last biggest thing is about how many people we should be promoting, for example.
Okay.
How much we can afford and so on and so forth. But the other thing that we often talk about is something that Dilyana also mentioned, is like, how do we go from here in terms of like, the people is the most important asset at the end of the day, right? So the most important thing is to analyze what is critical for the people. And I'm just kind of trying to continue what Dilyana mentioned as well, because at the end of the day, I mentioned earlier, like, people are the most important asset, and companies need to carefully analyze, because nowadays, people are disengaged, right? And the bonding that we have when people are working together, when you have new talent, when you recruited new talent, right? How do you get to bond when you're only on the screen, right? You cannot chit chat, you cannot go into the corridor and just, or people who smoke, go downstairs, have a cigarette and talk about what will happen after working hours and so on and so forth. And this is, I think, the main business challenge and HR challenge at the end of the day, to solve this extremely important, maybe one of the most important challenges that we face nowadays. People disengagement, how do we get them together? So this is a question that we often ask ourselves, just to answer absolutely directly, apart from the promotions, which is critical at this time of the year for us. But I think the biggest question that we ask ourselves is exactly this: how do we engage people? How we keep them motivated? How when you recruit new people, how do we integrate them? These are the questions that every business now is asking itself, because this is what we need in order to keep on delivering what we're promising to our customers at the end of the day, right?
Thank you very much for that. And Anna, what was the last thing that you got asked by HR so that they can deliver their goals?
I do believe they use my role a lot of times just because of the pure fact that a lot of operating models are changing now and modifying now. So you need a lot of agility, and you need to make sure that key messages are being delivered, and then everybody understands, modus operandi going forward. So I am often used as an influencer, as people will listen to, as somebody that should deliver those key messages, and not something that is simply an HR announcement, but somebody, that actually takes internally, and personally those messages and make sure they are delivered to the employees as well. So I am commonly asked to be the voice of the company, which is actually my job, but not only in specific business aspect, but everything what concerns also the employee engagement piece. And I enjoy doing that, actually. I kind of operate by the by the principle of Holy Trinity, I call it. So Holy Trinity for me are my clients, my employees, and the number revenue that we're all chasing, right? That's why we have the clients and the employees. And that Holy Trinity, not even one trumps another. They're all equally important to me. That's why they're in triangle, and we have to make sure that, we pay attention, to the specific, corner when we need to. So definitely commonly used as an influencer. I would agree with Peter that HR is the one that is commonly, speaking about getting people career growth together. But we have really good examples where actually these kind of things are discussed in collaboration. So I wouldn't be asked for that. This would be a common decision based on the submissions, that my sales director would give me, based on the sales managers, and we would have a side panel actually where myself and the HR manager would discuss future promotion as well. So I think it's a good example and it's a good practice that we actually implemented this year, and I'm looking forward to exploring it further as well.
Thank you very much for that. And Dilyana, out of your experience, what were the most common things that HR teams would ask the executive? Something that they don't have and they see it as a blocking point for them to move on.
Well, I would say when I have been in HR, I would rather start the other way around. I would always ask them, what do they need? Very often, of course, I would do the opposite. As HR, I have always understood my role as being there and sensing people needs, even if they cannot name them, naming them and addressing them. So that's how I've seen my role, and that's how I have tried to help executives. First, responding to their requests, and second, trying to pinpoint what's on the surface at the moment and what's need to be addressed.
And for example, what do you think is not clear at the moment, and which part of maybe the character or the behavior of an executive is not entirely clear or easy to understand from HR side? Because we know executives are really busy. Sometimes they miss small things, or they act sometimes odd under pressure. So what do you think is the most common thing you and Anna and Peter can share from the executive side to the HR people, just to release the pressure and tell them, this is what I have to handle, and maybe you don't yet see?
Would you want me to ask first, or would the others want to chip in?
If Anna and Peter would like to jump in and then say, what do you want to tell HR people, but you don't always feel like you can do that?
Yeah, I mean, like all of the HRs on high-level managerial positions, they already learned patience, right? And I think this is something that they do understand that in revenue-generating business, right, where we are, it comes with a lot of pressures, and they're not excluded on purpose. They're excluded, because simply maybe the timing is not right yet, and they will be included on a later stage, but they will be included eventually, right? So I think that the key message here is when things are ready, when we are able to provide organizational why, and we are be able to be transparent, we will definitely do that. Until then, we just need you to be in lockstep with us, and we'll make sure, we deliver on our side as well.
So the highlight is be patient, and I'll tell you what I have to tell you. Okay, Peter, how about you?
I was just thinking really about this, because one thing that I'm really passionate about is, Anna briefly mentioned, is transparency. And nowadays, to do business with your customers, for example, you need to be transparent. And the more transparent you are, the easier it becomes to deal with your customer, the easier it becomes to you to retain your customers, right? I think this is similar story with the team that you're working with. The more transparent you are, the better. The more things this become a gossip, people talk, then it becomes like a really bad situation. Sometimes you end up by not even sharing. I agree that there are certain things maybe you cannot tell immediately, but the smaller you make that window, the better. Because again, as I said, as soon as you surround yourself with people that are better than yourself, and I often call my our HR team and ask them, hey, what do you think about this? Sometimes you call people just not that either to challenge your idea and just to give you a different perspective. So I think this is a key differentiator when you work with high-level managers, for example. And that's why I often talk about transparency and really keen on that. So the sooner you involve them, the better. And the sooner you involve your team, the better.
The exact same way you would do that in a family, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You'll be totally transparent. Dilyana, when was the last time that you had to involve HR to solve a very difficult, let's say, situation, a very urgent one? And how did you ask them for help, for example?
To involve HR as a HR manager, having an HR team, or
maybe in your role, let's say, as a facilitator, executive coach, or in different situations, something interesting that you would like to share when they could help in a very, I would say, urgent or dangerous situation for the business?
in a very urgent situation. Well, usually I don't really remember a situation that has been urgent and critical, because usually what I've always tried to do, especially in my role with the executives, my last role, I will go a little bit back before I answer your question, Janica. My last role in the corporation was, they had, for the first time in their existence as a company, they had an HR. So being the first one, I really invested a lot in explaining what is an HR supposed to be, but more than that, what they expect an HR to be. So I do rely that two things help me avoid such critical situations. And one is really setting expectations from each other. And second is setting boundaries. What do you expect me to do as HR? Because I've also had a situation where they say HR should do this, this, and this. But what do you want HR in this company to do? Because I can do much more than this, and I can do less than that if you want me to focus on something else. So setting boundaries and expectations, I would say, avoid such situations. And if we have planned it right, then we can always react and have the, plan B or plan C to be very fast.
I really like something that you just mentioned. It's talking about boundaries. Anna, have you had such situations when you really had to put boundaries? And why?
So usually my expectation from the HR department, and let's say boundaries that we're speaking about, is that they have as much as possible our understanding of the business, and I have as much as possible understanding of the HR perspective, of my employees, of processes, of legislation, etc. So it goes in symbiosis. What I'm expecting from them, I also have to give to them back. There are always there are going to be boundaries. Sometimes you're the only person in the company that you know something that you're not able to share, or you have to say, like, this is as far as I let you, and I cannot let you further on. It's common in the business. If we speak now about, like, we are in lockstep 100% of the time, it's utopic. We are not, right? But as Peter said before, I think it was a great call out. Transparency as much as possible, right? And it's when you figure out, like, transparency, it's like, if you give them transparency, if you invite your key HR people to your business reviews to understand where the business is going, they will easier align with you, and those boundaries, will become a little bit more blurry, and transparency, like Peter said, will increase, right?
That's really, really insightful. Peter, have you had a situation when you really had to put boundaries, otherwise you thought that something will go wrong?
I don't recall, to be honest. Really, I was just thinking about this when you said it earlier. Urgent things happen, but for me, the urgent thing happened. It's like a small thing. Let's say that either of us just forgot about it, or I'll tell you something silly. I prepared like a certain people to participate in very important training, and I forgot just to send it. And then suddenly they chased me and said, "Hey, did you send this?" And I said, "Yeah, I did prepare it, and it was sitting in my draft for a week. I just forgot to click send because I was either occupied with something or just whatever. I've written everything, prepared whatever." And these are just kind of quick things. But again, why even it sounds a little bit silly as an example, but at the end of the day, if you don't have good collaboration with your HR team, this could become a very heavy escalation as well. Because Accenture is quite a complex company at the same time, we have lots of different units, and you need to go to the global team, but the local team, and so on and so forth. And such things can become easily an escalation in a global company like Accenture. And when you have a good collaboration with your colleagues, your peers, and so on and so forth, this becomes easy, quick solve. You can have a quick solvable things very easily. And I just said like, hey, this is it, and she just send it, and that's it, and it's all good, you know. So I think build trust as well in order to have like avoid this kind of critical situation, and people will help you. Sometimes silly things like those happen. You keep forgetting stuff. Your day is busy. You receive like 300 emails. Which one exactly do you need to answer first, and so on and so forth. So that's why the easy communication and the trust are very, very important in such situation, I think, to solve critical kind of very fast.
At the end of the day, even executives are human beings, right?
Absolutely.
Looking at the time, I would like to invite our audience if they have questions for you. And in the meantime, we'll do a quick round of your final advice, your core message to our audience today. Anna, would you like to continue?
Sure. I'm not the person that would, have like big speeches in the end with massive quotes, but something that I was actually discussing with our chief HR officer, and she said to me, culture trumps strategy for breakfast, right? And I was like, don't you quote Satya Nadella to me, right? And then I went a little bit back, but she's absolutely right, and everybody probably on this panel read the book or have the intent to read this book, but it is a fact. And then I was looking into my model, the way I operate, and one part of my holy trinity are my employees as well. And this for me is the culture as well. So definitely, we have to be in lockstep. I know I said it 100 times, but without the lockstep, without dancing or battling healthy together, a company cannot grow, and if you're not growing, you're just stopping.
So we can conclude that interaction at least should be there.
100%.
Super. Thank you very much. And Ileana, your core message for our audience?
Oh, I really love that quote from Draka that you said, Anna. A culture is strategy for breakfast, and I think it's really, really relevant of the collaboration in a company, why we are there. And I think now is also even much more important time, with this very special situation to rethink business and people relations. I think a window is really open for this opportunity. So my last final message would be really do not underestimate the relation between people. Do not underestimate the communities in the company. Do not rely on the old models, cascading strategies top down. Rely much more on the managers, the middle managers that see also the operational side and the strategic side. And last but not least, do not underestimate the dedication of people, because this is what drives bonds and this is what drives business.
Excellent highlight. And now, Peter, you have the excellent opportunity because you have one question. We'll do blitz now. So were there ever a situation where you did not trust HR, and what did you do in that situation?
I wouldn't say I didn't trust, but because again, as I said, like I'm very direct, first of all. And if I don't like something, I just pick up the phone and say it. So it's not about trust, but if you're hesitant, again, I said it earlier, just pick up the phone and talk to those people. That's the only way how you can solve problems. Because when I found this, like sometimes you see this big chain of emails, and then people get lost in translations. Literally, who said, what said, how did they say, how did you misinterpret it? This is just like total nonsense at some point. So the best way is just like if there is any misalignment or any even slight intent for mistrust, just pick up the phone and talk to those people. That's the easier ways to solve such problems. And that's what I normally tend to do. Honestly, I really hate reading long emails. I try not to send like my emails at literally 1-2 sentences tops. Nobody wants to read those emails. Everybody misinterprets them. So, but again, this becomes of how you communicate. If you're more transparent, people, you will not end up in those situations. And I think this is the again, if you go back to this, to me, this is a key driver for success. And on top of that, just add innovation. So because people will need to innovate in HR, in business, and just to maybe top on what Dilyana said, is like invest in people in terms of train them, educate them to ensure that you retain the talent that you have now more than ever.
Thank you very much. That's a very nice core message for the audience. And Dilyana, Anna, would you like to share? Both of you have like 1.5 minutes each before we close, but please share situations when you did not trust HR for a certain reason and how did you solve that situation?
Well, I think like we live in the world of delivering outcomes, right? So definitely this is something that has to be done. So I'm expecting a certain amount of outcomes, and same from the other side. If you don't get these outcomes, then simply somewhere the process is broken, right? And it's not about 100% trust, let's say, but it's all about the deliverables as well, right? So you need to figure out, we will be able as a team to deliver those outcomes. Will that person be able to deliver these outcomes to me? Is it worth investing in that person, right? Should I continue to coach? Should I be a trusted advisor? Should I invest time? I think as execs, we already know by now, where we can coach and where it's better just to part ways and say goodbye. So for me, I am putting it black and white. I am putting it black and white because I genuinely believe that, we are simply in a job of delivering outcomes. There are deliverables that need to be done, there are things that need to be sorted, and it's as simple as that, right? It's super important to build trust along the way, right? Because this is not somebody that will also just deliver things for you and be a simple executor for you. You ideally want an advisor and a consultant from the other side, and this is where trust begins.
Thank you very much. Dilyana, would you like to add to that?
An example of when we did not trust HR.
Correct, yes. When we didn't trust them and how you worked it out.
Yeah, from the side of an HR, I would say, or even from the other side, what I've seen a really good manager of mine do is, trust is earned. Set an example. Start from yourself.
Thank you very much. Well, I would like to thank you all for this amazing conversation. I'm sure it was useful for our audience, and this is just the beginning of a nice collaboration in the future.